Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this Ag Forecast for Australia, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I'd like to go back and review the moisture and precipitation that we have seen so far in the month of June, because as I went back and analyzed the performance of the forecast models and compared them to the map you see here, which is rainfall anomalies, so comparing this to normal here, we can see where the models have really missed lately. One area has been over in Western Australia. This was over-predicted in this area and then under-delivered, so we were a bit drier there, off by 25 to 50 millimeters with some higher amounts farther to the south. And then in parts of New South Wales and Queensland, this was an area that the rainfall kind of overperformed what the models were suggesting as we look back over this past month. So let's keep that kind of tucked away as we work into a forecast. Examining moisture, though, I want to show you some data from a satellite called GRACE. And now that G in GRACE stands for gravity. So this is a satellite-based soil moisture sampling technique that uses micro fluctuations in gravity, among other things, to tell you, the shape of water moving through the earth. What we've got here is looking at our wetness percentile. Again, this is compared to an historical average. So we can see we're drier in the interior here of Queensland. But outside of that, it's quite challenging to find large areas where we're really dealing with deficits in subsurface soil moisture. Now, we can compare this to what we've got from BAUM, and that's the map that you see here. And so this was valid here on the 22nd of June. Of course, we've now made it past our solstice. So good news is we're gaining daylight hours again as we move now through these winter months. But what we've got here is the same map, but we're just looking at a different data source here. So again, this would be the GRACE data. And this would be what we've got from BAUM. And it does reflect kind of the same areas where there seems to be a little bit below average. But outside of that, much of the rest of Australia looks pretty good right now. I'd like to continue this analysis by showing you this map. What it is it's a vegetation health index map, and what it's comparing to is a year ago. I like these maps quite a bit. They seem to do well across the United States, and so I'm hoping that you all can maybe leave in the comments for me whether or not you believe that this holds well for you too. But you've got the vegetation health a year ago compared to right now, and this is through June 17th. So if you see these shades, it would say we're the vegetation health. This is mainly an NDVI product where it looks maybe a little bit worse than it did a year ago, and this would be better. So I kind of focused in right into this crescent and through here where some of the values do look off a bit from where they were a year ago. But thinking about this, I would like to show you the entire planet, and that's what we're going to do next. So let's get a little international perspective on this. I'm going to start in North America. Our main problem, which we talked about last time, is the drought concerns we have in this area. So that extends from the U.S. corn and soybean belt into the Canadian prairie. A lot of canola, wheat, barley, legumes, other things like that grown in this area. Now, the only places in the U.S. where we've seen ample moisture have been in our southern plains to our high plains. Again, there is grown down here sorghum, corn, soybeans, cotton, and then right in through here, we've actually had a lot of moisture as of late. But this area, compared to a year ago, does not look good, and drought has been the problem in that area. Now, I'll show you in a moment, we're expecting a lot of rainfall here. But before we look at that, let's go look at a couple other areas. When you come over to Europe, take note of the Black Sea region. Look at the southern Russian wheat belt compared to the northern Russian wheat belt, the central wheat belt, getting here over into Kazakhstan. This is an area that has been stressed. Lack of moisture, where there's been quite an abundance of it through Ukraine and this part of Russia. Elsewhere across Europe, it's really hard to find major stresses, at least compared to a year ago as well. And lately, there have been a lot of low pressure systems that have moved through France into Germany and even brought rain over to Poland. Keep that in mind as well. From here, I would like to step over to India and China. So, because some of the areas that I tend to focus in on, the Manchurian Plain, the North China Plain, which is here. And compared to a year ago, we've got a bit of a mixed bag through the Manchurian Plain. But certainly this growing area looks better, and lately they've had quite a bit more moisture. Now in India, it has gotten very dry here, and I'll show you that in a few moments, but a lot of wet weather as of late has gone through this area. And the monsoon has started, and it is creeping toward the north, and we're looking at over the next several months the advancement and then kind of full power of that monsoon to be approaching. But as you saw, this was our map. I just have a kind of a blown up version of it here. So since we're talking about international weather, I would like to just show you this. Let's go look at the next 10 days globally. Now, many folks in the United States are very happy that from Texas clear through Michigan, which is over here, and then getting back into parts of our central plains, we're expecting very heavy rainfall coming up here. And this is going to be critical for our corn and soybean. This has been part of the reason we've seen such major fluctuations in the price of those two commodities. But take note, the Canadian prairie, very dry in this. In Europe, we still have another low moving here over France, Germany, spreading rainfall. And while you see a little bit drier conditions in Ukraine, some of the first rainfall returning to parts of the Russian wheat belt, the northern part of it, in a long time. But notice drier in through here and drier into Kazakhstan as well. Now across China, I'll just make a point, they grow a lot of cotton in this area. And then again, this area here is very similar to other Northern Hemisphere growing areas with corn, soybeans, and those big staples. We've seen better precipitation as of late showing up in that area. But India, quite dry after being so very wet in this region. But the monsoon is starting to advance, and so you're seeing the wetter anomalies farther to the south. And that kind of gives us that national perspective. So next, let's come down here and take a look at this precipitation pattern and where it's going. To do that, I want to explain just briefly where we came from. And I'm going to do that with the MJO. The MJO seems to be, because we don't have a La Nina, as I told you last time, the PDO is weak, and the Indian Ocean Dipole is slightly negative but weak. We're going to talk about that La Nina again in a few seconds, though. So we're going to use the MJO. Now, my main point is that we've been over here for a while. Where is here? This is near Africa and near the Indian Ocean. Where we fit into this picture is what's called the Maritime Continent, Phase 4, Phase 5, and it appears that the MJO is going to go that direction soon. But as of late, most of the best rising motion has been over Africa, subsidence over India, some rising motion here, that's what we call Phase maybe 7 and 8, and then here's the other side of that. Now, I'm going to put that into context for you in just a few moments because I understand that the MJO can be a tricky thing to get, and maybe it'd be good for me to actually put together a video that explains how to use it so you have it as kind of in your back pocket. But the other side of this is, of course, the southern annular mode, or what we call the Antarctic Oscillation. And since the beginning of June, it has been building up, and it is forecast to stay relatively high for a while. Now, what does all of this mean? Let's now put this together. This is our current wind field as I was recording this. So I record these late in the evening on Wednesday night, here in Illinois where I live. They come to you, I believe, early in the day on Thursday. And what you've got is there's a pretty potent little low here, and you can see the flow around that low bringing some stronger winds, for example, into Adelaide. But you're going to see just a daisy chain of low pressure systems that kind of just move across, well, basically between you and Antarctica. And that is what happens when the southern annular mode is positive like it is. So let's take a look at it. So let's blow that up so you can see a little bit better. There we go. This is the European Model 12Z run. That's the run that just came out, and there's that low pressure center. Now you can see the front associated with it, and this is what's bringing in that rain we're dealing with right now. All right, coming through parts of Queensland and New South Wales. Well, going through the early morning hours on Thursday to morning Thursday, and then getting into the afternoon and evening hours. That low just slowly spreads its way through parts of Victoria, and the front goes with it. Now, I'm going to do something here that I don't normally do, and I'm just going to play this quickly because I want you to see the pattern. Ready? So we're going to start here on Thursday and just go through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Now, if I just go back, you'll see it in reverse. But you see how there's just several low pressure systems rolling down here, and we get the tail end of them coming through. But certainly after this low moves out on Thursday into Friday, so see here it is on Friday afternoon, getting into Saturday morning, high pressure replaces it. We just have a little bit of scattered rain here on the coast and some scattered rain pushing up against the higher elevation here in Victoria and New South Wales. But higher pressure comes in behind this. Now the next system here, you see the front coming over into Western Australia. This is going to be Sunday morning into the afternoon and evening hours. That's about all we're looking at here. High pressure dominates the rest of almost the whole of Australia at that point. So let's get back into early next week. This is Monday morning, Monday afternoon and evening. And again, we just see some scattered precip as the higher pressure hangs on. Now from there, let's go out to Tuesday. Western Australia again, some very light scattered precipitation through Tuesday afternoon, possibly some scattered precipitation right along the coast, but we're drier in the interior. Then from Tuesday into Wednesday morning, getting into the afternoon and evening hours, we just see that low pressure system possibly increasing late next week, some chances for rain here. So that gets us out about a week in this forecast, and that's generally all the longer we tend to trust an operational run. I'll show you the ensemble in a few moments. But if I stitch all that together, this is what we're expecting in terms of total precipitation. I'll pause it once we get through the weekend, which would be right about to here. So you can see the rainfall that's coming through on that front, possibly in the 10 to 30, maybe possibly a couple pockets in there, 40 millimeters or more. Of course, as it goes over the mountains, it's going to be higher. But then we know to watch this area next week. So if we go from Monday into Tuesday and Wednesday, that's when the scattered showers come in here. And again, these amounts are still relatively light. But at this time of year, whenever we kind of measure this much precip, it appears as wetter than normal, as you all know very well. So if we just let this go all the way out, let's just play it out to day 10. That seems to be what our picture is of moisture returning here all the way through Saturday, July the 3rd. Now from there, let's go take a look at our wind speeds. And I just took this out a week because I want you to know that with that front that's coming in early next week, we could see some of our wind gusts here getting pretty high, maybe over 60 to maybe 80 kph. And with the system that's here today and its front coming through this area, we do have some locally gusty winds, but outside of that, we're not looking at the wind speeds being too strong overall in the next week or so. How about week 2? Notice how we're not getting much of a signal here. This is the European model week 2 precipitation anomaly forecast, so difference from normal, and it's got relatively weak signals here. So I'm going to come back to this longer term precip pattern in a few moments. What we've got, though, is the models are not picking up on major wet biases or major dry biases for most of Australia. So keep that in mind. It's a pretty bland forecast, but hey, there's nothing wrong with a bland forecast. Taking a look at our recent temperature patterns, we've been cooler across much of Australia, especially in Western Australia and down here as we get over to higher elevation parts of New South Wales. Maybe just a degree warmer than normal in a very small area right through here in the parts of Queensland. So thinking about that, where are our temperatures going? Well, this is what we've got. Let's kind of shrink that so we can see the color bar. There we go. This is our next 5 days when we compare it to normal. So we're cooler in the interior and near normal most everywhere else. Our only places with warm bias is kind of here along the coast in Queensland and then the very northern tips of Australia. Going out there today 5 through 10, that seems again to be the area that carries a warmer bias. We're cooler once again in parts of South Australia and along the southern coast. That's it. It's really not too exciting to kind of be talking about here. I will show you this just because we are, at that time of year. It is important for us to keep an eye on any time that the temperatures get down toward that frosty level. So what I'm showing you here is the probability of a temperature below 0 Celsius. So as we kind of move through, what you'll notice is that getting into the weekend and then into early next week, you do start to see that at elevation, okay, we do see, I'm sorry, I went kind of fast there. Take you back. At elevation this weekend, we're going to see those temperatures dipping below freezing. And then as you get into early next week, behind that front right there, I just want to make a point that we could get those overnight lows down there, maybe 1 to 3 C in this area, so get closer to that freezing mark. But outside of it, that's all that I'm really seeing here. This is expected, right? So this takes you out to the 4th of July. From there, let's now take a look at the bigger picture thing. So I told you I'd come back to the MJO. Now, maybe this is an easier way to see it. Wherever you look on this graph and you see the blue colors, notice they're slanting like that. This tells me where the MJO is. And what it's doing is it's coming out right now in phase 1 and passing, see how it goes like this, over to phase 6. So we would expect that if the MJO is coming just to be north of Australia, that we would have better chances of precip. While the subsidence in the atmosphere, that's where it sinks, is way out here in the Pacific Ocean. So that's the progression of the MJO in the near term. And largely due to that, we see this precipitation pattern. So overall, this is the month of July as forecast by the European model. And I will do a verification on this. Again, this is the month of July. We see wetter conditions south and in parts of Western Australia. If there's a place that the European model is picking up with a drier bias, it's coastal parts of New South Wales and Queensland. So let's compare this to what BOM is saying. And this is what we've got from BOM. Their July forecast, which they issued back on the 17th of June, so we should be getting an update soon, says that the probability of having rainfall exceeding median is higher in through this area. Now notice they don't show the same bias we did see in the European model here along the kind of our northeast coast. So we'll watch that to see if there's a difference. But what I have to say overall is that we kind of stitched together the bigger pieces moving in the atmosphere, ocean temperature patterns, the way that the MJO was moving. We are going through this time period with a very low probability of drought development, and that's the one thing I'm always on the lookout for Australia. So from there, why don't we just get a quick recap of those temperatures across the global oceans, and I'll show you the latest long-range stuff, and then we'll wait until next month to get all the new monthly updates. So here's our current ocean temperature pattern. What's changed? We've cooled off a little bit over here, but again, that's part of that negative IOD pattern, Indian Ocean Dipole. And we just remember that the negative phase of the Indian Ocean Dipole supports rising motion here, better chances of rainfall. We are still looking at a negative Pacific Decadal Oscillation, which we talked about last time. That is also supportive of rising motion over Australia as well. All right. Is this indicative of, a building El Nino? See the warmer water there? No, I'm just going to write it in there so you don't worry about that. In fact, as we pointed out last time, the chances of, as we go into our spring and summer, of a second weak La Nina is in the cards. We see that right now showing up in the forecast models. And despite some changes lately, this is what the ocean temperature pattern changes look like, where we've cooled over the last week around Australia. The overall sentiment shown to me in the ocean temperature patterns remains the same. So I'll finish with one last figure, and it's this one. Last week we had released to us the IRI Multi-Model Analysis Group, and this is their July, August, and September forecast for precipitation anomalies. Now when you look at it, I know we start to see, well, what's going on right down here, or in this part of Western Australia, where they've got this probability of being below normal. Overall, the predictive skill of these models is limited, and they describe that over here. What I see in general, though, is across the continent, we do not have chances of widespread drought issues. I'll watch these areas very closely to see if we get this pattern evolving. But I'll keep you updated every other week, okay? So I look forward to talking to you again once we get into the month of July. And until then, hope this forecast provides some insight for you. Thank you so much.